How can you spot a true Bison fan? They have an exclusive Bison debit card from Gate City Bank in their wallet. Plus, they know that for every card order, Gate City Bank donates $10 to NDSU. Show your spirit with your own Bison card today at gatecity.bank/Bison or instantly at any location. Gate City Bank, for a better way of life. Member FDIC. Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of the Kolpack and Izzo Podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank with the Forum's Jeff Kolpack. I'm Dom Izzo from WDAY Sports. North Dakota State returns home for the first time in almost a month as the Bison welcome in for the final time as Missouri Valley Conference members.
Thank God.
The Leathernecks of Western Illinois making their swan song tour of the Missouri Valley Football Conference as they're setting off for the Ohio Valley in 2024. Kolpack's already taken shots at WIU. They've lost 19 in a row. They're already feeling pretty bad here.
I kind of feel bad just saying that because there's a saying in journalism, comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And I think they're afflicted.
No, there's no doubt on that.
But how do you comfort them?
I don't know. You wish them well.
Yes.
You know, that's all you can do. Good luck in your new venture. That's all you can say. Before that, the big story coming out for this game, not the fact the Bison got smoked by UND, is that the 50-50 on Saturday is going to be over $100K to the winner here.
I guarantee my wife's going to be buying some tickets.
I guarantee I'm going to buy some. If you hear dead air on Saturday, I won. That's why. I'm out of here, man. My dad.
Are you going to mic drop it?
My dad's already texted me saying, hey, you better buy me a couple tickets on this. Every time he's come to a game, he's done that. And now it's over $100,000.
And when do they announce that? End of the third quarter?
It's end of the third.
Or
late third, early fourth. So, yeah, if you hear that.
And the winner, they're gonna pan up to you in the press box.
I'm going to be like Usain Bolt downstairs to the field.
Kyle, it's all yours. I'm out of here.
That's a big chunk of change, Kolpack. That's
It'll be over $100,000 to the winner.
Yeah.
They had that once before too. I remember one year somebody didn't claim it, and it got up to somewhere around there.
That's fantastic. So that's one of the subplots hanging around for this game with Western Illinois on Saturday. Where do you want to begin here? We chatted on Monday in the direct aftermath of the Bison defeat to UND. We visited with the players on Tuesday. Found out there was a quasi-players-only meeting that happened on Sunday.
Which I would expect.
After a performance like that. Yeah.
Yep.
We visited with Logan Hofstad, one of the seniors. I asked him directly if there's any sort of rift with the team. I didn't expect hey, things are fractured here. But he did say, this is something the older players are taking upon to say, some of us may need to stay longer to practice, do some extra drills. Not just for the younger guys. We need to do this as veterans of this football team. Watch more film. That. Yep, I heard that too. Heard that a couple times said over. So give me your 30,000-foot view of where things are at right now.
Boy, I've never seen a performance like that from a Bison team. And I've covered the team since 1995. Seen 10 years worth of games probably before that. So if there was, I don't remember it. Maybe something in the 80s. I don't know. But and maybe in 2002, that 2-8 thing, because the 3-8 season in 2009, there was a lot of close games. It was 4 or 5 one-score games. 2002 there might have been something there that I just forgot. Mm-hmm. But in striking fashion, how this happened with a team that was a runner-up last year in the FCS national title game. And then to lose to South Dakota, you think, okay, there's a wake-up call, but evidently not. Yeah. Or maybe they're just not that good.
Right. That's where I was heading on that, because Matt Entz said it after the game of hinting at, hey, maybe we've been bringing along these younger players. Maybe it's time we give them some more reps. I think he not necessarily backed off of that, but when I asked him on Monday, in that same vein, he says, well, we're not going to go and overreact and blow things up. So I don't know.
But you kind of have to semi-overreact and blow things up, don't you?
That was my thought process on that, because if you keep running out the same, that's the definition of insanity, is seeing a different reaction and doing the same thing over and over again, and that may not be the case here.
Well, we keep hearing about all these recruits, and you and I follow it, and a lot of them have FBS offers, a lot of MAC offers, a lot of
Mountain West
Group
offers.
of 5.
Yep. occasionally Power 5.
And you're like, okay, let's see it.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it. Well, how many players in the last 2-3 recruiting classes are on the field right now?
Oh, there's not many. And there's a byproduct of that, of the COVID years.
And guys hanging around.
Of choosing to use extra years of eligibility. And you mentioned this on Monday on Hot Mic. Like, there may be some more difficult conversations that need to happen here to say, okay, we promised you, and I say we, meaning the university, when they sat in the young man's room, home, and said, we promised you 5 years. That's what we said. We didn't promise you 6. And you may be salt of the earth. We like you in this program, but you may be blocking somebody else's path to the field.
Well, is it interrupting in general the rotation of development?
Correct. I think there's a lot to that. I really do. And I'm not trying to kick guys off the team, but when you're looking at how often have you've heard, well, we've got just great wide receiver depth. Well, we haven't seen that play out yet. I mean, we haven't seen guys get on the field Mekhi Collins is at 1 catch. Carson Hegerle hasn't played yet. Like, are they not developing? Are they not that good? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that.
We don't.
Right.
We frankly just don't have answers is what we don't have.
And I thought, Kolpack, after the loss to UND, I thought seeing the schedule the way it was setting up, these next 2 weeks would be a perfect opportunity to find out that against teams you would likely overwhelm. Here's an opportunity to get some younger guys some reps. I didn't see the harm in that, I guess, is what I think. I'm not a football coach, though. I'm just sitting here watching the games.
Well, I don't think you look at the opponent so much. I think you got to look at what you have in your personnel and who are the most talented kids.
And get them out there.
Even if you're playing South Dakota State this week.
Find out who you got.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you kind of
couch it in a way,
couch it with the opponent,
and that's a good point.
You could probably go in, then you're going in there saying,
well, we know we're going to beat these guys, and Hofstad told us that
and that's
can't
not
prepare
how you
for that.
No.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you have to find out what you got. Is Kelton McCaslin, can he play? I understand he's a redshirt freshman. He's 6'5". Can he play on the defensive line? Can he play defensive end? I understand the offensive linemen he's going up against are 300 pounds and 6'5", but can he get to the quarterback? Can a Logan Larson, who's a redshirt freshman, can he get to the quarterback? A Nathaniel Staling at linebacker, can he make plays in the open field? These are the guys that we've been hearing about for the better part of 3 years since they committed. Can they make a difference and be on the football field?
He brought up 4 true freshmen this week.
Yeah.
Talking about the head coach. Jalen Duffy, the cornerback from Waukegan, Illinois.
Yep. I imagine he plays Saturday.
He brought up Jalen Crumby,
yep,
the safety from Tampa. He brought up Jack Lewinsky, the center from Chanhassen.
Yep, Minnetonka kid.
Yep. And he brought up one more.
Griffin Empey.
Yep.
Those are both offensive linemen. The last offensive lineman that was a true freshman to play.
Billy Turner?
You may know him, yes. He's all right. I don't foresee that happening. I think that was maybe a shot across the bow at his.
But with the new legislation that we just found out about, where playoffs don't count.
I'll get to that in a second. But I think the first 2 guys, Duffy and Crumby, you're going to see on the field on Saturday. At this point, we knew secondary going into the season was going to be a question mark. So why not, again, roll the dice and see what you got there? I don't think there's any harm in that. The other guys, that's what I'm thinking. The redshirt freshmen, Kolpack, the guys that have been here a year, are they developing? Can we see them on the field? That's what I was, not necessarily true freshmen. I was wondering on the red shirts, can they get out there and play some more snaps? I don't know. To me, there's
Darius Givens comes to mind.
Another one, yes, another one on the back end that he got in for a couple plays. And frankly, I imagine they're going to be down 2 defensive starters on Saturday. Cole Wisniewski and Julian Wodarczyk both suffer concussions. In this day and age, there's no shortcuts on if you're concussed, you got to go through a ton of protocol to get on the football field.
We also heard the corner, Najee Nelson.
Another,
out of Lakeville.
and he has dressed, he has not played yet. So I'm intrigued. If you have 2 guys down, automatically there's going to be opportunities to play. I would be really surprised if either one played on Saturday. That's no inside knowledge. That's just watching and knowing where we're at. I'd be really surprised if Wisniewski or Wodarczyk plays. So that opens the door for a guy like Ryan Jones, and likely Oscar Benson is listed as the backup. Is a chance there that Staling gets on the field? Maybe. I don't know. pregame warm-ups are, I always have like a hawk on that. Will be even more interesting to see who's warming up with the ones when we get to Saturday afternoon.
Well, I guess it comes down to a level of trust the coaches have in players,
Right.
and maybe you don't have a choice but to try to trust them.
I personally, see if you disagree with this. Offensively, I don't think that's an issue. Defensive side of the ball has been a major issue to me. You agree with that, or
Yes.
you think the offense has some warts as well?
We're so used to Bison defense over the years, and so this is different. And frankly, I mean, if you look statistically at their defense, they're middle of the pack. Scoring defense, 25th. That's not horrible,
No.
but they've been top 2 or 3 every
Correct.
year. So we're not used to that.
What's rush defense?
40th, middle of the pack.
Yeah.
You're a middle of the road FCS team on rushing defense.
But the thing was that you watched on Saturday how UND attacked it, Kolpack. It wasn't any special plays. It wasn't any trick plays. They were running up the middle. They were running up the middle and getting 8 yards almost every time. That's the disconcerting part. It's got to be for Matt Entz
against
right
a team that, frankly, never showed signs of doing that against a good team.
certainly not against the Bison. They had not been able to do that. UND's offensive line weighed on the Bison defensive line. The Bison defensive line was getting pushed back constantly in that game. That's, to me, the more concerning issue. Certainly when you have 3 quality opponents like South Dakota State, Southern Illinois, and Northern Iowa looming in November. That's the part that you have to be concerned about.
I don't know how you fix that.
Can you in the middle of the season? Because you can't go trade a guy. You can't go into the portal in the middle of the season and add a guy. That's what you have is what you have. And that, I guess, goes back to our first question. What's the talent level on this football team right now? Is it good enough? You asked that question, or McFeely asked that question. Matt Entz says it's not about talent. It's about execution right now. And here's the thing, because you asked about effort. I asked about preparation. Mike asked about talent. If it's not any of those 3, there's one left. That's coaching, right? I mean, I don't know what I don't know much about sports or football, but if it's not talent, if it's not effort, and it's not preparation, I don't know what else
I
there
can't
is.
add to that.
Yep,
I can't add to that.
I mean, that's, to me, I don't know what else there is left on that. And I'm not calling anybody out. I'm just trying to figure out what the heck is going on with this football team right now.
So this week, Dabo Sweeney from Clemson throws out there on Monday about the criticism that his program's been taking.
And Clemson's been under fire, too.
Yep. And he goes, maybe the bandwagon's too full. Time to empty the bandwagon a little bit. So he's calling on, he's pushing back.
Yeah.
He's saying, no, the criticism is too much on my program. Is that what we're seeing here?
Well,
here's the thing. Do you want it the other way?
I was going to say, do you want nobody to care?
Do you want Western Illinois?
Right. You want to be completely apathetic? No, that's baloney.
What Dabo said?
Yeah, take a hike on that stuff. You can't have it both ways where you love all the support when you win a national championship or you're making the title game and you're on your way up as a program, and now you've established that you're a top 5 team traditionally, and then when things go sideways, you say, well, if you're not with us, you're against us. That's not how it works. That's not the definition of fan is fanatic. You're ensconced in whatever you want with your particular team. So, and you're allowed to ask tough questions or question what's going on when things go awry, like they have so far in 2023. But here's, sorry, go ahead. You go, and then I want to add one thing.
Well, as I say, when we didn't have the contract to televise, we didn't go away.
No,
we covered the team.
Yeah, same thing. Here's the thing, though. If let's say they finish 8-3, you and I both predicted 9-2. 8-3 isn't like the world is ending, and they could still do that. And then could we sit here and say, boy, did we overreact because they end up winning 8 football games and they're going to go to the playoffs?
I guess if they win 8 games, then things have gotten better because obviously they'll have beaten a couple of quality teams. You
mentioned to me a couple weeks ago you thought Missouri State was the jumping off point. Okay, so now what do we call?
Well, they fell back in the hole.
Yeah. So now what happens
I don't know.
here?
I don't know.
That's the intriguing part of where things go with this football team. And again, they could go anywhere, Kolpack, from, it'd be really hard, 9-2, which means they run the table, which means winning at South Dakota State, 8-3 with a likely loss at SDSU, 7-4, which you're probably sweating, I think, Selection Sunday. I do. Some disagree with me on that. Or 6-5, and the whole thing falls apart. Which, if that's the case,
But again, it's happened before.
Right. And I've had people say this to me. If this game in any way, shape, or form is close Saturday, then we got some other issues to chat about. And I agree with that. Because Western Illinois is not a good football team. This game should not be anywhere close.
Bison, 10-1 in 2006, 2007.
Yep.
Ranked number 1, almost made an FBS bowl game if they would have gone unbeaten in 2007.
Yep.
And then 2 years later, you're 3-8.
Yeah.
I mean, so it can come back.
Yep. Yep.
And we're already burying them.
But that's the thing to me is just where are you going to see going forward? That's the part I'm questioning or intrigued about. Like, okay, what's the strategy ahead here on this? If it's simply the veterans playing better and the guys here, then okay. And if we see that over the final 5 games, then I'll be the first to say, okay, they turned it around. They were able to find it, and we'll see what happens in the postseason. If this goes sideways, then I think there are larger questions at hand that we have to ask when the season is done, personally, in my mind. And that's, 8-3, which would many programs would climb over and kill for. NDSU's not used to. We're not used to, because that means Thanksgiving weekend, Kolpack. That means the Bison will host a game and then have to go to maybe Grand Forks, maybe Vermilion, maybe Brookings, maybe Bozeman, maybe Missoula. Imagine all those are on the table if the Bison are playing, which they likely will on Thanksgiving weekend.
Kind of reminds you of 2010,
right.
Doesn't it?
And now that, you want to talk about a jumping off point, that was, because you see what the talent was that was coming up. A Colton Heagle and a Grant Olson played as freshmen that season. And they bench guys. Craig Bowl was maybe an unpopular guy. He was benching captains that season because he knew what we had, that, well, these guys are better than what we have on the field. I don't know if that's going to happen in 2023, but I'd be interested to see if something comes about on that, if there are younger players that are earning more playing time. We haven't seen it yet. That's the thing. So it's going to be really interesting. Even against 2 opponents, which, at the outset, were like, boy, end of October. I'm really interested to see who plays the next 2 weeks. I really am.
Yep.
Even against opponents that they should overwhelm. To me, I'm really intrigued about that.
Yep.
What about Western Illinois? I know you're going to dive into this on Saturday on Bison Game Day. We went to Macomb last year and saw a university that's in rough shape, a town that certainly has taken some lumps and well as Macomb. We found out in May that the university decided to leave the Summit League. They're in the Ohio Valley now in every sport outside of football. This is a program, I remember my first full year covering the Bison was 2009, and they were good. I remember they came up here in 2010 and whooped the Bison on homecoming.
Yeah, this is not a football program issue. This is an institutional issue. If you look at enrollment, when Matt Ants was there for 1 year in 2013, the enrollment was 11,700. Now it's just slightly over 7,000. That's like almost a 40% decline in enrollment. 40% in 10 years. In 2001, the enrollment was 13.5 or something like that.
And that's when you went there, right? 01, 02 when you were there?
No, it's 04, 03,
okay.
04, somewhere around there. I need to remember. Because I need to go back to that story.
The Rams were there. The St. Louis Rams were doing training camp in
Macomb. So Babbage was there. Lamar Gordon was in training camp. They had 3 beautiful practice fields. Yeah. The players stayed in the high-rise dorm. It was a great facility for the Rams and for training camp, and the place was alive. I mean, it was alive. Yep. It was happening. And Western Illinois was a program that NDSU had to strive to be like back then.
Right.
I remember doing that story. I remember talking to the trainer was a guy named, I think, Mike Pendergast, a guy from Fargo who was working at Western Illinois. Huh. And he was talking about how the program is just was cooking. And this is what NDSU, he said, this is what NDSU needs to do to get to our level.
That's striking to say that now, because I remember them making the postseason that year in 2010. I think they lost to Coastal Carolina. We talk about how odd things are. They made the playoffs that year. Bob Nielsen came in. They made the playoffs in 2015. And then Charlie Fisher, remember him? He was head coach. They got into the playoffs. The last time was 2017.
Remember when Bob Nielsen left, you wondered why?
Yeah.
Well, now we know why.
We know why. I actually asked Bob about that the week the Bison played USD. He said, yeah, we maxed out on what we could do there. And it's not that long ago. Colin Saunders was a dominant defensive lineman. He just won the Super Bowl with the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a terror on
the Bison needed
line.
a halfback pass from John Crockett to win there one year.
Crockett to Carson Wentz in 2014 to pull out a victory.
What do you call himself? Johnny Rocket, the Rocket Man, or something like that?
Yeah.
The Rocket Arm?
Yeah. He needed it on that day. But it's striking because here they come, as I mentioned off the top. They've lost 19 games in a row. They haven't won since Halloween of 2021. Myers Hendrickson, who's a former Leatherneck, is the head coach, and he's doing the best he can. But, boy, they've got 40-some-odd transfers, and this is an upward battle here.
Yeah, and you're talking both sides of the ball. I mean, 122 teams in the FCS. They're 122nd in rushing offense and 122nd in scoring defense. It's both sides of the ball.
It's not good. It's not. And I don't, you talk about giving them some hope. I don't know where you see that happening. They have a few games. They have an Indiana State coming up that Indiana State hasn't won this season.
That's a good move for them to go to Ohio Valley. If not, go down to Division II. I don't know.
Well, let me give you the long-range question. Is this university open in 4 or 5 years?
Again, I go back. That's what I started with. This is an institutional issue.
Let alone them playing football. Is the school still open? And they're not immune to it. Eastern Illinois is going through it. Southern's going through it.
Southern's up in enrollment this year.
And Northern Illinois is going through it.
Southern went up in enrollment.
That's interesting. But that the state of Illinois, education-wise, is not in all great shakes on that. That, to me, is you look forward on that. It'd be hard-pressed to me that Western Illinois is still playing football in a
Boy,
few
that
years.
town would just shrivel up.
Yeah, it really would. And I think you make a great point. Competition-wise, it makes a heck of a lot of sense for them to go in the Big South OVC have combined here to play the likes of a Tennessee Tech, a Tennessee Martin, rather than face a South Dakota State, a North Dakota State, a North Dakota, Youngstown, South Dakota, Southern Illinois. Those are they were overwhelmed in those matchups.
Yeah, I think there's
nothing
something
similar.
I read something there, $12 million in the red.
Wow.
Talking about the school.
And the league added Murray State, and the way the schedule played out, they didn't even get Murray State on the schedule this year. So it's like, come on.
How cruel is that?
And that's like their closest school to get to is Murray, Kentucky, and Macomb aren't that far, and they didn't even get a chance to play them this year in the schedule the way it is. So people will wish them well. They were a good league member. They're a founding member of the Gateway Football Conference. That's the thing when I think
1982.
Patty Viverito was pretty abrupt in her comments saying we thank them. They're a founding member. I think there's some, I don't know if hard feelings is the right word, but this is when a founding member leaves, that's a tough deal, Kolpack. That there's some reverberation. Even if they're bad, there's still, I think, some reverberations felt on that to me. St. Thomas leaving did that with the MIAC. I wanted to, point that out. They were founding member. The MIAC still, I don't know if hasn't recovered is the right word, but it's still.
But they kicked them out.
Yeah.
Sort of.
They were going one way or the other on that. Western, I don't know if they would have been kicked out, but it wasn't looking good. Hey, I wanted to get your thoughts on this before we wrap. I'm going to segue real quick. I don't know if you saw the story the Star Tribune did yesterday out of Minneapolis that U.S. Bank Stadium, speaking of kicking out, is kicking the Gopher baseball team out because they're putting new turf in March and April, or February and March, meaning the Gophers had 15 scheduled home games gone. They got to go play on the road. You've been down there more than a handful of times. I know when your son played down there. It's not just the Gophers that use that for baseball. Division II teams, high school teams, the Bison have been down there a handful. That's a big deal. And it's a really big deal that they
it's
a
nice baseball setup. It really is. I mean, I was shocked when Minnesota Duluth, when I went and watched Duluth play somebody, Wayne State or something like that. And wow, this is like nicer than the Metrodome was for baseball.
And they play at all hours too. I mean, there were games like 11 o'clock at night to 5 o'clock in the morning.
I think we played at midnight.
Yeah, I want to say, I remember you telling me that. So that's a big deal. I wanted, because you had firsthand experience on that. That's a hose job. It's already tough enough for anybody north of Kansas to play baseball in February
Can't
and March.
They put it in May?
That's what I thought, but I don't know with the amount of trade shows and concerts they have in there. The Vikings aren't the primary tenant of that building. I mean, they have everything else that runs through there. I mean, the Vikings are in there, 10 days out of the year, 11 maybe max. That's a tough deal.
Not going to be any playoff games there.
Yeah, right. I don't think so this year. But for those teams that, South Dakota State's played there, the Bison certainly have. plenty of Division II teams. I know Perham played high school baseball down there last spring. They're getting kicked out because there's new turf going in. It's a tough deal on that. Before we wrap, we look at things. We're going to get our first real glimpse, I think, of the early selection of what the committee is going to look at. After what happened, Montana went and won at Idaho. Montana's for real, right? That's 2 straight road rank wins they got.
I admit it, yes.
Okay.
We were wrong.
It's still SDSU way up here. But Montana State plays Idaho next week. They play Sac State Saturday and then Idaho. It's a big challenge the next 2 weeks for Vegan's team to see how good they are.
Well, it's a chance for them to say we are a threat for Frisco.
Right.
Yep.
It's going to be fun. That game, Montana State Sac State, is the game on ESPN2 coming up on Saturday night. Then they have all their toughies on the road. They won 40-0 at Weber. Now they got to go to Sac State. They go to Moscow, and then they end this season in Missoula.
Sac State loses its head coach. Its number 1 running back is a leading rusher at Arizona State this year, Scatabo.
Yep,
and still pretty good.
Suddenly the Brawl of the Wild game may be real interesting. That could be.
Where's it at?
It's in Missoula this year. That could be for the 2 or the 3 seed, maybe, depending on how things shake out here at the end of the season. That's why if the Bison are in that first round, who would you want to see them? If you're UND, would you want to get NDSU again in the second round of the FCS playoffs?
Probably not.
Right. I don't think if Bobby Howe could be all that thrilled of, yeah, we got the game at home, but we got North Dakota State coming in. That could be.
Is there ski places out there?
Kolpack's already looking ahead to try to get on the slopes. Don't forget, everybody, we got a full day of coverage. Bison Game Day gets you started at 10 a.m. Jeff, myself, Kyle Emanuel, Logan Campbell will be there. The game begins at 2:20, our kickoff show, and the game shortly after 2:30. Final time, we see Western Illinois inside Gate City Bank Field of the Fargodome as the Leathernecks are a 37-point underdog. Did you take the 37? If you were a betting man?
As mad as NDSU is right now, I think if they get going, they put the gas on.
Okay. So the points does not cover is what he says there. With the game at 2:30, you can see it on WDAY. For Jeff Kolpack, I'm Dom Izzo. Thanks so much for listening, everybody, to the Kolpack and Izzo Podcast, brought to you by Gate City Bank.